Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, how are you? I hope all of you always in a good condition and in a health condition. And I hope when you see this video, you in a good mood and maybe you have smile in your face. So, well, before we start our topic, let me introduce myself. First, my name is Rizka Enggar Dwi Pawestri. I'm from class regular B. Today, as you can see in the screen, we will talk about diabetes mellitus. Okay. Next. Introduction. Diabetes mellitus is not a single diverse disease, but a diverse group of disorders that differ in origin and severity. Yet all forms of diabetes mellitus share one common characteristic: hyperglycemia, resulting from defect in insulin production, insulin action, or both. Chronic hyperglycemia is correlated with organ dysfunction and damage, progressing to failure of numerous organs, particularly the eyes, kidney, nerves, heart, and blood vessels. Insulin deficiency is generally due to either insufficient insulin secretion by beta cell or comparative deficient response by target tissue cells to insulin. Whatever the cause of insulin deficiency, it results in glucose intolerance. The diagnostic criteria for diabetes mellitus are outlined by the Standard of Medical Care in Diabetes 2014 from the American Diabetes Association. Okay, next, in the box 17.1 Clinical Application Classification of Diabetes mellitus. First, Type 1 Diabetes mellitus. Beta cell destruction with absolute insulin deficiency. 2. Type 2 Diabetes mellitus. Progressive defective insulin secretion with insulin resistance. And 3. Gestational diabetes mellitus or GDM. Diabetes diagnosis during pregnancy that is currently not offered diabetes. 4. Diabetes due to other cause. 1. Drug or chemical induced or such as after organ transplantation. 2. Genetic defects. And 3. Cystic fibrosis or other disease of the pancreas. And last, category of increased risk prediabetes or previously not as impaired fasting glucose or impaired glucose tolerance. Okay, diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. Diagnostic criteria for diabetes are outlined in box 17.2. There are 4 ways to diagnose diabetes. Diagnosis can be made on the basis of a fasting plasma glucose of more than equal to 126 mg/dl or more than equal to 7.0 mmol or a causal plasma glucose more than equal to 200 mg/dl or more than equal to 11.1 mmol with the presence of classic symptoms or unexplained weight loss, polydipsia, polyuria. Other tests and laboratory measurements used in diabetes mellitus diagnosis and risk assessment are described below. Okay. Box 17.2 Clinical Application Criteria for Diagnosis of Diabetes mellitus. A1C more than equal to 6.5% using standard laboratory measures, or fasting plasma glucose more than equal to 126 mg/dl or 7.0 mmol, or symptoms of diabetes plus random plasma glucose concentration more than equal to 200 mg/dl or 11.1 mmol, or 2-hour postprandial glucose more than equal to 200 mg/dl or 11.1 mmol during an oral glucose tolerance test or OGTT. Okay, next. Next, tests and laboratory measurements used in diabetes mellitus diagnosis and risk assessment. 1. A1C or glycosylated hemoglobin. Glycosylated hemoglobin assays or hemoglobin A1C or A1C measure the amount of glucose bound to hemoglobin protein. The higher the glucose concentration in the blood, the more hemoglobin is glycated or via addition of a glucose molecule to amino acid side chains, thus making it a valid test to measure degree of hyperglycemia. This test historically has been used to monitor adequacy of glucose control after diagnosis. And 2. Oral glucose tolerance test. Oral glucose tolerance tests or OGTTs are rarely need to diagnose T1 diabetes mellitus due to the sudden onset of symptoms accompanied by hyperglycemia. The test is preceded by an overnight fast of 8 to 14 hours, during which water might be drunk. Timing of the test begins at the beginning of the drink. Blood samples are collected at the 1 and 2 hour mark after the test load. And last, islet cell autoantibodies. Islet cell autoantibody serves as indicator of the body destructive immune response against its own B cell. Okay, next. Monitoring and evaluation. Whatever type of intervention is necessary, progress can be monitored using self-monitoring, records, and laboratory tests. Evaluation might reveal a need for further education or adjustment of insulin dose based on self-monitoring. Follow-up session will provide an opportunity to evaluate how well the patient is able to manage his or her diabetes. Glycemic control is fundamental to the management of diabetes and provides the basis for monitoring and evaluation of the condition. Improved glycemic control is correlated with sustained reduced rates of micro and macrovascular complication. Efficacy of glycemic control and the management plan can be evaluated by health providers and the individual with diabetes through several methods. The combination of self-monitoring of blood glucose and A1C is the best indicator of glycemic control. Nutritional implication. 1. Blood glucose level should be monitored and carbohydrate should be increased and or insulin adjustment should be made. And 2. In those individuals whose diabetes is poorly controlled or under insulin and who are ketogenic, exercise can cause or worsen hyperglycemia. And 3. When insulin is deficient, the rise in counter-regulatory hormones that takes place during exercise cause an increase in hepatic glucose production and free fatty acid. And last, cellular uptake of glucose is minimal, resulting in both hyperglycemia and increased production of ketones. Okay, nutrition assessment. Self-management records should be evaluated to determine how blood glucose levels are affected by carbohydrate intake before and after exercise, as well as insulin administration. Next, nutrition intervention. Medical nutrition therapy. Control to body weight is very important to diabetic or at risk for diabetes. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute states that include in the overweight category are individuals with a body mass index or BMI more than equal to 25 kg, while those belonging to obesity is with BMI more than equal to 30 kg. There is an increased risk of comorbid disease associated with excess visceral fat. Can be measured through waist circumference, which is more than equal to 100 cm on males and more than equal to 90 cm in females, while especially for Asia it is more than equal 90 cm in males and more than equal to 80 cm in females. Caloric management strategies for weight management should be based on realistic target weights. Assessment of the weight are according to energy level and activity each individual, so that a formula is needed to estimate basal metabolic rate and excretion daily energy based on body weight and activity. Evidence show that by reducing energy and fat intake more or less 30% of total energy, regular physical activity can result in weight loss 5 to 7% of initial weight. Standard diet in loss weight is by reduce your intake of 500 to 1000 calories per day. It turns out to lose weight 0.5 to 1 kilogram week. Okay. Macronutrient composition. Nutritional components include the macronutrient are carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Macronutrient composition recommended for diabetic patients is carbohydrate 45 to 60%, protein 10 to 20%, cis monounsaturated fat 10 to 20%, polyunsaturated fat 5 to 10%, and saturated 5 to 10% trans fat. In medical nutrition therapy, the type of carbohydrate divided by glycemic index or GI or glycemic index, which is an index food based on the direct effect on blood glucose levels over time, or Table 3. Table 3, classification of carbohydrate carbohydrate based on the glycemic index. Classification: low glycemic index rank 55 or less. Example: most fruits and vegetables or express potatoes and watermelon, whole grain breads, pasta, legumes, or pulse make yogurt product extremely low in carbohydrate, or some cheese, nuts, fructose. Classification: medium glycemic index rank 56 to 69. Example: whole wheat products, basmati rice, sweet potato, and table sugar. Last, classification: high glycemic index rank 70 and above. Example: corn flakes, Rice Krispie, baked potato, watermelon, croissants, white bread, extruded breakfast cereal, most white rice, straight glucose are 100. The purpose of setting a fat diet in people with diabetes is to limit saturated fatty acid, trans fatty acid, and cholesterol intake, thereby reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. Saturated fatty acid and trans fatty acids are the main determinants of plasma LDL cholesterol levels. On non-diabetic individuals, by reducing saturated fatty acids and trans fatty acids will reduce total and LDL cholesterol. Dietary management for people with diabetes is the same for people with cardiovascular disease because of these two groups have an equivalent risk. So, the intake of saturated fatty acid is recommended, which is less than 7% of total daily energy. Minimum may be trans fatty acid intake and daily cholesterol intake less than 200 mg. Next, micronutrient composition. There is no clear evidence about benefit from vitamin or mineral supplements in people with diabetes or compared with the general population. Do not have underlying vitamin or mineral deficiency. Routine supplementation with antioxidants such as vitamin A, vitamin C, and carotene not recommended for lack clear evidence of success and relationship with long-term side effects. And last, food consumption, which is rich in natural ingredients and contains antioxidants in significant amounts, especially fruit and vegetable, are source recommended vitamin and antioxidant. Okay, last conclusion. Medical nutrition therapy or MNT is therapy nutrition which includes the diagnostic therapy and disease management includes counseling service provided by a dietitian registered or a professional nutrition. In pre-diabetic or diabetic individuals, MNT plays a very important role in prevention development of diabetes and its complications as well as management of people with diabetes while taking into account preference, personal or local cultural customs as well, maintain pleasure in consuming food, energy balance and body weight, macro and micronutrient composition need to be carefully examined, especially in people with diabetes comorbid. Okay, this is reference. Yes, I think that's enough of my presentation today. More or less, I apologize and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.